Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Say Report. We're on a time crunch, so I don't have time to let Sejohn sit over there laughing to himself at, yes, we have
Uh,
no pistachios.
I'm gonna laugh anyway.
No, you
What's
should
going on,
laugh,
everybody?
but I don't have time for, silent setup laughter.
Excellent. Okay.
Mm, excellent. Exactly. Hi, welcome to the Say Report. This is the same intro. I'm Devon Decker. Joining me from across the room is Sejohn Sarowick. And I don't know what we're
Hey,
talking
all the
about
way
this
across.
week.
Oh, well, probably gonna have to be some Comic-Con stuff. I mean, not everything because it's still going on, right? There's still info kind of flowing out. But there was a couple of things that I wanted to talk about. But before we get into that, Devin, do you remember like 3 weeks ago when you silently in the night, like in a frenzy awoke, grabbed your phone and felt the need to text me, I really need you to watch this like 20-second clip from Ghosted. And since it's not available, I need you to go and find it, and it's at this minute mark to this minute mark. And it was legitimately less than like a minute and a half's worth of television.
Of course I remember that. Because
Well,
it.
I, as somebody that has never watched a stitch of Ghosted yet, I think I might have watched the pilot when it first came out, but it's been so long I don't even remember that. I decided, sure, I should go ahead and check that out, but I refuse to, at this moment, watch anything else but this clip. So I have no context whatsoever for what
I
I
feel like that's
watched.
the perfect reason to watch it. This is the way you set that up for yourself.
So I watched it, Devin. Devin, why was I supposed to watch this clip? Not that I didn't enjoy myself.
Probably because of all the corpsing and breaking on the part of Adam Scott and Craig Robinson. Because if it were an Emmy category, best improv on a half-hour comedy, this will win.
Do you want to set this up a little bit for people so that they can maybe go and check it out?
Gosh, yes. I don't have the exact numbers, so hopefully you have the exact numbers. So Ghosted is a show that I really, really liked. Actually, the finale is airing later on tonight, and I'm not super happy about it because it's the series finale, not the season finale. So Ghosted was
Yeah.
this show that decided, you know what's funny? The X-Files. Like, it's not funny on purpose, but it's funny. Like, people like to watch the X-Files and laugh. So what if we redo the X-Files, but it's a 30-minute comedy instead of an hour-long drama, sci-fi
Yeah.
drama?
Yeah.
And someone's like, yeah, that's a great idea, right? We're Fox, so
Yeah,
we'll put that on.
the way that I felt about it when it first got announced, and the way that I understand it, again, keeping in mind that I barely watched the pilot, maybe, is it felt like they had decided to take X-Files and treat it as if it were like Law and Order, like it was its own established genre and tropes and rules, and then like a Brooklyn Nine-Nine version of that, you know? So Brooklyn Nine-Nine is to Law and Order what Ghosted is to X-Files.
That's not a bad SAT analogy for you
Yeah,
to make.
right. Yeah.
So they do the show, and they're like, but if it's gonna be funny and this stuff, we need like two dudes who get comedy. And someone from the back of the room's like, what if we got Craig Robinson and Adam Scott? And that person turned out to be Craig Robinson. And then someone else in the back room's like, yeah, that's a good idea. And that was Adam Scott. And they're like, how'd you two get in here? And they're like, Ghosted. So the show
Oh
Ghosted comes
man.
along. And it's an interesting show because the first 10 episodes, of which only 9 aired, were done by one showrunner. And it was a very specifically, we're going to do this whole show, and Craig Robinson and Adam Scott, that's our moneymaker. We're going to focus on their friendship, their relationship. One is a skeptic. One, it's basically like X-Files, right? One is
Yeah.
Mulder, one is Scully.
Right.
Even though Mulder is the guy. Well, even though Scully is literally in the first episode watching a man take his head off,
Yes.
Craig Robinson's still like, no, there's an explanation. Ain't no aliens. What are you talking about, Max Jennifer?
Oh man.
And then they have 3 support staff members in their office back home, which is in a wire hanger company, which is just like the best cover ever, unless Mommy Dearest comes along. Uh, so and then there they have the leader of the group, Agent Dufresne. They have the tech girl, and then they have the lab tech guy. So that was the show. Like Ghosted was a 5-hander, and it was good and it was very funny, but it focused a lot on this relationship between Craig Robinson, a former cop, and Adam Scott, a disgraced physicist. Like that, and they were brought together to solve supernatural crimes. And supernatural are fucking bounds. Like I said, there's an alien who takes his head off. Second episode, zombies for real happen. Third episode, like they go to other dimensions and things like they were not like, this is not going to be like, is it real? No, like they're like, we're committing to the fact that the supernatural exists in this world, and these are the fucking chuckleheads who have been sent to save you. So even though Dale and I were probably the only people watching it live, and we watched it live every Sunday night, they decided to extend it for 6 more episodes, which made me very happy. But the thing is, they're like, but these 6 episodes, different showrunner. Like, fuck this guy we got now. He don't understand how to make good TV. Why are we selling this on Adam Scott and Craig Robinson? What is wrong with them? It's like, so let's find someone else. And they get Toby from The Office, Paul Lieberstein. I think that's the name, right? And Paul Lieberstein, he knows how to do one show, and that's The Office. And that's not a bad thing. It's just that that's the show that he knows how to do.
Right.
So he, in 5 episodes, without even like any, here's what we're going to do, or like transition, you come into episode 11, the 10th episode of which never aired, but we'll get to that. And the show has been completely revamped to be the Office environment.
Oh,
in
God.
addition to those like 5 people that you already knew about, they added like drones. Like they added basically the accounting department, and they gave the lab tech an assistant.
Oh man,
and,
this is so weird.
Yeah, and just like, because why the fuck not? They replace Agent Dufresne as the person in charge with Shia LaBeouf's dad from the Transformers movies. I wish I knew his name. I feel real bad that I don't know his name. But he's
also done so much more than the Transformers
movies. I know,
movies,
right?
But, yes.
But everybody knows who I'm fucking talking about when I
if
say
there was going to be like a mayor
dad.
in a Batman movie, he'd be a really good mayor. In fact, he probably has played the mayor in a Batman movie somewhere along the line.
More than likely. Even if it was like direct to video, he at least did the voice. So he comes in as Merv Minette, and he's like 2 years from retirement, so he just doesn't want to be fucking bothered. So instead of like researching the supernatural, of which we know exists, it's a lot of them sitting in the office doing absolutely nothing.
Do you feel like this was them saying, okay, this show's not working the way that we intended it to, but we know that people really love Adam Scott and Craig Robinson. You know what they also really loved They loved Adam Scott with Parks and Rec. So do you think it was like,
they also love Craig Robinson in The Office? I mean, Daryl's a great fucking character.
Right. So like, do you feel like it's also, you mentioned The Office a lot, but I wonder if it's also pulling from maybe a lot of the Parks and Rec stuff as well that really like Adam Scott hit it out of the park.
The problem is that Parks and Rec, I have not seen a lot of Parks and Rec, but the episodes of Parks and Rec that I have seen are super fucking kinetic. And there is no motion or action in Ghosted. Like, it feels the way that, like, The Office felt. Like, Parks and Rec, a lot of, because they're in Parks and Recreation, a lot of their job is done outside the office.
Right.
In that.
Well, right, and the joke, and part of the joke of the way The Office is made is the idea is it is so not kinetic because offices aren't, right? Like, that's just the style of that show for a purpose. But does that work for Ghosted?
No, not at all. Because they were going out and they were like, first of all, almost every episode, Craig Robinson and Adam Scott carpooled because Adam Scott didn't have a car, so they would carpool. So every episode would basically start with their drive into work, and it would be a sing along to some stupid song on the radio. and so you take that out of it, and it's just like, what's happening now? On some like budget line, they're like, why the fuck are you keep licensing music for this show that Devon Decker is watching?
Yeah, that only Devon Decker seems to be watching every week.
Like, he can do his own music. You don't need to license this.
There you go, headcanon.
So
they drive into work. They sing. We don't need to do this.
We don't need to do this anymore. But then, like, the best episode of the reboot one had them actually out on a case talking to the spider lady who had tape in her hair because the spiders get stuck in it and they think that she's a bigger spider. And then after that, they're driving back and they're singing because they're about to go see Bruno Mars. So they're doing Uptown Funk in the car. Actually, they never say they're seeing Bruno Mars, so like headcanon. My guess is they're going to a Mark Ronson concert.
Nice.
So they do all this. But the big thing is that they introduce all these characters who, like, you don't get time to know. It's just like, yeah, these people have always existed in the office. What the fuck is wrong with you? How did you not notice them?
Yeah. Great.
And you're
Awesome.
like, oh, okay. And one of them is Bird. That is his name. His name is Bird. I wish I knew the actor's name. And I can't even describe his delivery and his type of improv. Like, it's all about yes and, but he's such a no butter, and I love it.
Yeah.
So in that episode I was talking about with the Spider Woman, they see a UFO as they're driving back, and they get it on camera, and because Scully has been, Craig Robinson has been such a skeptic this whole time, seeing the alien freaks him out, and he reveals that the girl who in Ghosted 1.0, or Ghosted OG,
right,
like. Adam Scott was super flirty with, and it kind of felt like they were going to get them together by the end of the series, that Craig Robinson and her slept together. And that comes from fucking nowhere. So then they're showing the UFO video at work, and they didn't realize that that was also recorded. So then the whole office finds out that these two slept together, and it basically becomes the sexual harassment episode of The Office.
Oh, God.
Where they need to sit down because someone made a complaint, and the complaint was from a married man who works in the office. He's like, I don't like that all these single people in this office get to have sex and I don't. So I'm filing a complaint. So they had to have like sensitivity training, and this whole sensitivity training episode happens, and it ends with Bird telling his own story of like a sexual encounter when he's walking in the woods, and he just goes, and it's just about a minute, but like slowly.
I can give you the numbers. You want the numbers?
Let's give the people the numbers, because I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, it is episode 14 of Ghosted, and it's the 1725 mark to about the 1920 mark. Yeah, so just, it's like I said, it's barely a minute and a half of your life. Like, go and check it out.
That's
it's
exactly a minute and 55 seconds. I mean, just for the record. If it's 1725 to 1920, it's almost 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. It's 2 minutes. Everybody quit. Don't go. It's 30 seconds too long. I'm so sorry.
Oh, CJ, no, don't waste those extra 30 seconds of your life. Hashtag Siege and Sarah Wick. But go watch it. It's on Hulu, and that's how you're going to experience this show. And here's the real effed up thing: they did not show the 10th episode. They went in, they showed the 9th episode, and then they went on an extended hiatus.
Right. As Fox is prone to do. This was Fox, right?
Yeah, this was Fox.
Yeah. I mean, none of this should surprise anybody. This was a comedy show that had a cult following on Fox, so it just didn't have a chance.
Yeah. So 5 months later, it comes back, and it's the whole new show. But in New Zealand and Amazon in America released the 10th episode, which was planned to be the season finale. I have not seen it yet because I'm not New Zealand, and I didn't buy the season on Amazon because I'm not New Zealand.
And because you're not New Zealand. Not New Zealand. That's true.
I'm not a Kiwi, mate.
Oh, God. Oh, jeez.
Nope, I'm not directing Guardians of the Galaxy 3 anymore. Sorry.
Oh,
but so this episode aired, and that is the episode that they are airing tonight. And it is still marked as a finale, but it is from the original Ghosted timeline. So all of these characters that have been introduced over the last 5 episodes will not be there.
It'll also not have anything to do with any of the story. Well, I guess you said there really wasn't much set up in those 5 episodes.
Well,
though,
yeah, those 5 episodes. Actually, those 5 episodes ended on a brilliant cliffhanger. And spoilers for the last episode of Ghosted 2.0. Adam Scott's character came back from the future to give him a warning.
Which will not matter.
Which will not matter because, that was a really good finale thing to, tease for what the second season's going to be about. But that's not happening.
Yeah.
So they're going to go back to it. And here's my hope, though, because when I was watching Ghosted the first time, I was like, so there's this big setup where Adam Scott's wife was abducted by aliens.
A
And
la Scully, a la Mulder's.
Mulder. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, exactly. Where his wife was abducted by aliens.
Murder and Scully.
Murder and Scully. And in this thing, I like to believe that it's Scully from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I would also watch a show that is Fox Mulder and Scully from Brooklyn Nine-Nine doing X-Files investigations.
Oh my God.
I'm just being honest. But only if they eventually get together.
Scully.
Man, I wish I had nerve damage.
Oh man! So there's gonna be this weird ass finale that isn't a finale. It's actually like a mid-season.
But that's the thing. So, but even in the beginning of this show, like they had episodes where like Adam Scott's wife being gone was like a huge thing about his character, and then they'd have episodes where it was not a part of his character at all. And I like jokingly, assuming that Ghosted would be on forever, assuming that like this is the best thing on TV right now. How could we not get Ghosted until the day I die?
Right.
I was thinking that their long game was there existed two dimensions. There existed two separate universes, and in one of the universes, Max, Adam Scott's character, had this wife who was abducted, and then the other universe, he was never married, and because he never got married, it still led him down the same path of investigation, and that this episode that's airing tonight was going to be the crossover of those two dimensions.
So, fingers crossed.
So, fingers crossed, and here's why fingers crossed, because then the 5 episodes of Ghosted 2.0, it's 6 episodes. It's episodes 10 through 15, so that's actually 6 episodes. I'm doing math wrong. If they introduce that, then I can believe that all those 2.0 episodes exist in a third universe that just doesn't intersect with the first 2.
Oh god!
Like, and that's my hope. That's my biggest hope and fear. And by
they
the time
retcon the entire thing, the entire series.
Yeah, but they retcon it with an episode that already existed and has already aired in New Zealand. Like,
maybe this is like the Gap episode that explains how they got into the like office mode.
Well,
like, what if this entire thing like not
like if it's a flashback? Well, here's the thing though. This episode is not by Paul Lieberstein, so it is by the original showrunner.
Right.
So I imagine like they completely killed by having Craig Robinson sleep with the girl that Adam Scott liked. They completely killed that whole will they or won't they thing. But I imagine that in tonight's episode, that will like be part of it. And also, they did like a whole thing where they're like, how about we don't talk about your wife's disappearance anymore? Yeah, that's good. And he flips over to chalkboard. So like when they talk about his wife's disappearance tonight, that's gonna be weird.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for it. But watch the scene that I told Sejohn to watch. We're gonna give you a week, and then next week we will actually talk about it because I want to give you like that week to go out and try to experience literally a minute and 55 seconds of just what is. My mother has watched it multiple times because she just thinks it's one of the best things she's seen on television. And she, too, has no experience with Ghosted up until that point.
Awesome.
I'm glad that I'm very happy that it apparently affected you the way that it did.
I mean, it was something, and I was just like, I guess I have to watch this whole thing now, which, you know, to be fair, my girlfriend's been trying to get me to do for a while, so that'll happen. But I also didn't understand this weird history that this show had, so I'm also kind of nervous and excited to watch this show that kind of goes off the rails, but all right.
I really liked giving an oral history of Ghosted, I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah. See, and you thought we weren't going to have much to talk about today.
Well, I just got 8 lobsters, Sejohn.
What?
Yeah.
Excuse me? No, I'm sorry. You have to explain that. You don't get to just that's not going to be one of those hanging fruits that we just leave. I'm sorry.
So, okay, when I lived in Massachusetts, our local supermarket was Demollis, and then that became known as Market Basket.
You mean the mollusk? You're saying that
Demollis.
wrong. It was the mollusk.
No, Demollis. Demollis. It was a family name, and it was a family brand of supermarkets that would then later be known as Market Basket. And unfortunately, the Market Basket near us, they opened a Shaw's, and that Shaw's totally put Market Basket out of business.
Yes.
So it was like one of those sad things. Like, I've seen a lot of things close in my time, unfortunately, because we live in the downfall of the American civilization, which is great. It's like this is a cheery
at least
episode.
retail.
Yeah, right. Well, we don't have retail, Sejohn, but seeing supermarkets close is weird. Because those are stores that don't have to have a everything must go sort of event, because that's sort of the market of supermarkets.
It's already an everything must go every day thing.
Everything is perishable. So
yeah.
like those stores, it's open one day and it is closed the next.
Yeah, they just stop putting fruit out and that's it. They're
and if
done.
you happen to be there that day before they closed, maybe you got a really good deal on Lucky Charms. But there's no like going out of business. So they opened up another one of these Market Baskets in Attleboro, and that's the closest one to us. And we have never gone. Like, we've always been like, we should go sometime, we should go. But then they had $4 lobsters.
Hells yes.
This weekend.
Jesus.
So
were they like scrawny little guys? Like,
no, they're pretty solid lobsters.
Damn.
Well, to be fair, it's $4 a pound. So like it might be a little bit more than $4 if you get a bigger lobster.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Still.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice solid. It's a good price for lobster. And it's because, they probably overfished in Maine and they're not selling and whatever.
So why did you have to get there at 7 a.m.? I guess to beat crowds?
Because you want to beat crowds. Well,
people?
so here's the thing, right? The spoiler was we were going to leave at 6:30, but my mother went to a Miranda Lambert Little Big Town concert last night.
I thought you were going to say something this morning at like 5 o'clock this morning. She went to a Miranda Lambert radio something.
Yep, no. No, she went to a Miranda Lambert concert last night. Didn't get home until 1 in the morning. Very fun to be on the other side of that. Yeah, you're heading past curfew.
Yeah,
to get called. And I'm like, so are we still doing Market Basket? Like, we got to leave at 6:30. And she's like, no, we're going to leave later. So we didn't leave until 8 o'clock.
So really, the secret of this story is that your mom went out and had a cooler night than either of us, and then you woke up really early to go buy her seafood.
Yeah, kind of. It's sort of true. No, she went with me. We still went together because neither one of us wanted to go to the Market Basket without the other one. If that makes sense. Well, because like that used to be where we'd shop when I was like a little boy.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And so it's like,
so you showed up and she put you in the basket.
Yeah, it was great. They were not happy about that. And like we broke 2 carts before. No, I just watched Shallow Hal too. So that's a full discussion episode. That promises for a Shallow Hal discussion. Because Sejohn, you need to see it before we talk about it.
Oh, I've seen Shallow Hal. It was a Farrelly Brothers film that came out while I was in high school.
No, I know that you've seen it. I'm like, you need to see it again through 2018 eyes.
Okay, fine. We'll do this, and then we'll bury it deep in the annals of YouTube. We'll make it a YouTube episode. Nope, anals. That's where Shallow Hal's gonna go.
That's where Shallow Hal goes. Rude. But yes, what was I talking about? So we go to the store, and I gotta tell you, it's heaven. Right down to the fact that We're in Heaven by fucking Bryan Adams is playing on the goddamn PA system. Sejohn, they have a whole wall of freezers. I was walking along the freezer wall for 11 days. And it was all ice cream. All different brands of ice cream.
Fantastic.
And I'm just like, the store's crazy. So like we lost track of time there. But then we get to the seafood section and they don't have any lobsters in the tank. So we're like, oh God, we missed it, right? Like we came here an hour late. Devon was right, which my mother hates to admit. But she's like, I'm going to go up and ask. And he's like, no, we got them. We're just keeping them in the back because there's so many. And she's like, oh, okay. And then like, the woman, like, to the guy next to her is like, I'll take 6 cooked. So that guy's like, ugh. So then the guy with my mother's like, how many do you want? And she's like, I just need 8. And he's like, ugh, cooked? And she's like, no. Why would I want them cooked right now?
No. God, I don't need 8 cooked lobsters at 7 o'clock in the morning, please.
And he's like, oh, thank God. Like, you saw his whole face, like, just light up. That like I just gotta grab 8 of these little fuckers and you're out of my hair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh man.
So there will be a proper trip to Market Basket where we go up and down every aisle and I can report back. But know that we got 8 lobsters and we are having some macaroni and cheese with lobster tonight. And I am quite excited. But also they had tempura chicken nuggets. That's what my breakfast was. and friggin' Ken's honey mustard dipping sauce.
Nice.
Right, so heaven, right? And they had blue raspberry Italian ice. I've never seen it in the wild. I only see it on the Lindy's website.
Oh God.
It was the best.
I'm glad that you had such a good morning, man.
And then I came here and got to do an oral history of Ghosted, and now Siege is going to talk about Comic-Con because I haven't followed any of it.
Yeah.
Because I don't like
Well,
spoilers.
there's a whole bunch of good stuff that's coming out. I just like I said, we'll talk more about it over the next few weeks as like stuff kind of really gets parsed out and all that sort of stuff. But like, you know, some of the big ones that I really definitely wanted to touch on today is, first of all, for preview for Shazam finally came out, and I felt like that was something we definitely needed to address. Devin, how like into like Billy Batson and Captain Marvel and Shazam are you?
I know that Shazam stands for something Hercules, Athena, Zeus, Ares, and Mars.
Yeah.
I don't know what the S is.
Now, shoot, now I can't think of it either.
Actually, yeah, because
Son of God. It stands for Son of God.
no, it does not stand for Son of God. We were gonna call you Shazam,
But we thought that was no
but
good.
we're like, no. But like Shazam is a magic word that of like all these ancient heroes of mythology and biblical things
Right.
that give Billy Batson powers.
Turn him
Shazam
into-
is well Captain Marvel. But,
Yeah.
but we call him Shazam now, you know, for marketing reasons.
Yeah. So that's one of the big things that this movie is solidifying. I don't think it's the. I
Are
don't think it's
Shazam
introducing-
and Captain Marvel coming out like around the same time? Like, is magic amazing?
That's a good question.
They're both coming out in 2019.
Yeah,
Which is...
I think Shazam. If DC sticks to their usual shtick, they're gonna try and do it later in the year because they like to act like they're doing like Oscar worthy superhero movies. Like that's their whole gig. You know, but that's been a rollover. I mean, a holdover from the Nolan stuff. You know, back when that stuff was doing really well. With Shazam being as weird as it is, they might try and do a summer release with it. But I think no matter what, it's gonna be long after Captain Marvel.
Okay, but they're both 2019 releases.
Yes,
it
they
would
are.
be like I want to be those. I really, let's be honest. I want them to come out the same fucking weekend.
Yeah, no, of course.
I want that,
you want it to be the whole Armageddon. What is the Elijah Deep Impact like comparison?
I want it
thing.
to be Volcano and Dante's Peak.
There you go.
But also, it's like, you know, we're saying that it's a comparison, but really, like the character of Shazam and his powers are nothing compared to Carol Danvers and her abilities.
And just like Tommy Lee Jones' adventure,
blip blip.
Dante.
No, you're bugging
Never
out.
mind. We're not going to keep doing this bit. Back.
You're back. Yeah.
Hello. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, no. So Captain Marvel is a DC. Well, DC's character of Captain Marvel has obviously going to have some issues in the Marvel Cinematic Universe dominating world that we live in, right? So they've decided that they're going to stick to the idea that Shazam is just his name, which is one of the things that they announced pretty early with this whole project that had people kind of like on edge because they're just ready to be upset at DC for anything right now, right? But they've put the preview out, and I'm very interested to see what the reaction is for people because, I mean, they're not hiding the fact that this is just going to be a straight up family comedy. You know, it might be a little grittier because no matter what, DC can't seem to shed that. But I think that they're really it's really interesting to see how much they're willing to lean into the fact that like this is going to be funny, guys. We're not trying to do what we did the last couple of times. I don't know. I don't know how people are going to react to that sort of thing. I'd be interested to see what. How do you feel about the stuff that you do know about it so far, Dev?
Well, first of all, I thought they were doing a Black Adam movie.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think they were doing a Shazam movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited to hear that it is actually called Shazam, and Shazam will be the driving character of it. That makes me happy to know.
Yeah.
Which it's not.
Well, and also, I don't think Black Adam's actually anywhere near this one.
Right. So Is The Rock playing Black Adam still, or is The Rock now
Yeah.
Shazam?
Well, my hope here is my hope. They still have The Rock attached to the Black Adam stuff, and he loves Black Adam, has been very vocal about his love for that character. So I don't think he'll give it up very easily. But you know how the world works. Just because they want it doesn't mean it'll ever work out money wise, right? So my hope is that they are still holding off on introducing Black Adam until they can figure out how to get him involved. So what they've decided to do with this movie is instead they have Mark Strong coming in to play a great British bad of some type, right? And that'll be just fine for this movie. But the hope is that it is building to Shazam 2 with Black Adam. You know, whether it's that he shows up as a cameo in this one, or we don't see him at all, but we catch wind of him or something, or they're just holding off until they can solidify that he gets his own thing. You know, the other thing about Black Adam is that it's such an interesting character that if DC was willing to go a little weird, they could even give Black Adam his own movie first, and then have the two of them run into each other.
Which is honestly what I thought was going to be how they were going to do it.
Yeah.
I honestly thought, and I thought, what an interesting way to do it, because Shazam, even though he's basically Magic Superman, that's what he is.
Right.
And like he even looks like it's the same character model.
Yeah, I mean, if we really wanted to get into a lot of the stuff with it, like there's reasons why Shazam is going to be completely different from what we've seen so far, and why they're willing to lean into the comedy, and why they're not calling him Captain Marvel, because they don't need another Superman, right? Like they don't need to lean into that stuff. So really, like pushing to the Billy Batson stuff to the front will be key to make sure that it is not Superman. Also, the preview, spoiler alert for the preview, I guess, is I mean they're not ignoring the superheroes that exist in the world. The whole point to Billy Batson in this is that he is following Superman and Batman and the goings on of the DC universe as we know it right now, right? So like he is not divorced from that stuff. Yeah, sorry.
I love that. I no, I absolutely love that, because that's one of my biggest issues with the Spider-Man movies made by Sam Raimi. So don't kill me for what I'm about to say. But like the fact that he exists in a vacuum takes away what is my favorite aspect of Spider-Man as a character, and that is a lot of it is emulation. I mean, the very first issue of Spider-Man proper is him going and like, I'm going to become the fifth member of the Fantastic Four. They'll love me. Yeah, I'm gonna walk right into the Baxter building, and they'll be like.
And then he ends up pissing them all off, which is fantastic.
Nice adjective.
Yeah, no, original fanboy.
Yeah, it's like, so like if you have this Billy Batson character who is this fanboy, I mean the other problem with that though is that the newest Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man, he has a lot of that there. So it unfortunately. Initially in my head, having seen nothing, knowing that Billy Batson is trying to live up to these heroes who came before him, it's like, oh, people can say that they're just cribbing that from how Spider-Man is right now.
Well, and the way that they're going to alleviate that is they're giving him a great funny sidekick. So Billy,
like Ned from Spider-Man Homecoming?
Yeah, well, so Billy will not be. Billy will be too cool for school, right? Like he'll get that super reserve thing in the world and really love them and see them. But with his own background, Bill, I don't know how much you know of Billy's background, but he's a foster child, so he's kind of moved around from home to home. So he's disillusioned with it all.
That's why when he found a wizard who was willing to give him a magic word, he's like, "Yes, sir."
Yeah. So they're going to give him a little bit of a different edge than Peter, because he's going to have this disillusionment, this feeling of abandonment. But at the same time, he's also going to be just a kid. So there's going to be a ton of that sort of goofy stuff. The movie that it's actually getting compared to a lot, and I'm very interested in this, is Big. That's the thing that they're really kind of looking at.
Well, that makes perfect sense.
Right. Like, yeah, but if they can actually focus more on that style of movie about little kid living in a big body and trying to figure out what to do with these powers, and not focus so much on like him being like mad at the world and not knowing what to do, and now that he has the superpowers, is he like, I don't want there to be a question of is he good or is he evil, right? That should never be a question with Shazam. Like he is just good through and through because he has a childlike innocence, like literally, right? So, and it looks like that's where they're going. So I'm excited. So Shazam is definitely on my list right now and DC did that thing that they always do, no matter how many times they put a movie out that I get upset with. And this goes all the way back to the Super Kenshi days. Like I have talked about this. It doesn't matter what they do in a movie that upsets me, I always seem excited for the next one. They do a really good job of hooking me specifically, despite the fact that they have done nothing to impress me in a movie yet.
Well, we'll see how you feel after Aquaman, and then
That's true. You know, and that's the other thing that they always do. For every movie that they put out that I'm kind of only half interested in, they somehow rope me in with one that I'm super interested in. So like, as much as Aquaman is, I'm not sure. I'm nervous because I've seen, you know, some of Aquaman already. Shazam has got me sold completely.
yeah, I'm excited about it. I mean, I'm happy I haven't seen anything yet. I want to experience it in an actual theater, for the first time. Like I just saw a trailer for, oh God, what the hell was it? It'll come to me. But I saw a trailer for a movie that I was like, I knew nothing about before Mamma Mia 2 days
Hmm.
ago, and I'm like, oh, I'm seeing the shit out of this movie. I didn't even think I'd care.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they do a really good job on that end, and you know, Comic-Con is obviously the place to do it. But the other weird thing that I wanted to talk about is how what do you know about Invader Zim?
A lot, but not. I didn't buy a shirt at Hot Topic. Is what I'm going to say about Invader Zim.
That is an interesting joke to make,
It's
Devin,
not a
because
joke.
like
That's a distinction that I'm going to say.
yeah, yeah.
I am one of those people who watched Invader Zim when it was new. I'm not one of those people who found it later on in life,
All right,
which I
hipster,
think is
calm down.
another distinction. I'm not trying to be a hipster. I'm just being like,
No, I
because
know. There's a difference.
there was that group. I mean, like the closest thing that I can compare Invader Zim to is The Nightmare Before Christmas, because like I felt like that movie existed. It like kind of came and went, and then Hot Topic started selling Jack Skellington shirts,
Well,
and
what
we
happened with Disney
realized,
is Disney realized what a fool they were to not produce it to begin with, and then they swooped back in and bought it. Is what happens. Disney took it and did what they do, and they pumped some magic back into that one. Because remember, when that movie first came out, it wasn't a Disney movie.
I know that. Well, it was
Yeah,
a
so like
Touchstone, right?
Touchstone, which is Disney's parent company, but Disney proper actually like turned their nose up at it, and they were like, "This is not a Disney film. Like, we can't have anything to do with this." And so they handed it off to Touchstone, and then it became such a huge hit with kids that they were like, "Oh, maybe we want it back." And like 3 years later, like bought it all back, changed a bunch of the stuff, and all, yeah. But Invader Zim, it's had a lot of the same trajectory, weirdly enough, in that it kind of was like the black sheep when it came out. It came out around the same time as Fairly Odd Parents, just to give everybody an idea of the two different directions Nicktoons went in at that same moment. And in fact, I shouldn't say Nicktoons in general, how against the grain Invader Zim actually was. And it never was quite successful in its time on Nick. Like, I think it got 3 seasons altogether.
Yeah, 3 seasons altogether.
Yeah.
And it followed, like, just talking about other trajectories. It followed a real big Family Guy trajectory because they did a release of it on DVD, and that's when I feel like a lot of people saw it.
Right.
That and um, I guess games and sports, right? Because I don't think Teen Nick existed yet.
Oh, yeah, right. Gas would have,
Like,
though. Yeah.
like that. They would show episodes of Invader Zim at that Adult Swim time.
Yeah, right. Right. And so it kind of picked up more steam after its cancellation for sure. Like, so it ended 3 years into it, like 2002, 2003. And it just kind of never really went away though, because it had enough of a fan base that Nickelodeon could continue producing merchandise, and basically the merchandise on its own basically kind of kept going. And it's one of the few properties that I think that Nick's ever been able to do that with. Disney excels at that. Like years after a movie has come out, they'll still be able to sell you a toy from Cars, right? Like that's like their whole
That's their whole
marketing system,
marketing. And
right?
and
But
if they
like
sell one
Nickelodeon
less
doesn't
Cars
really,
toy in a year, they'll make a sequel.
right? And then they'll get that toy back times a million, right?
Yeah.
And so that's and Disney just owns that whole thing, but people don't even bother trying to emulate that, right? Like Nickelodeon doesn't bother putting toys out unless it's a show that like has specifically like on the air now and that kids know that they want to go out and get, right? Except that over the last couple of years, I feel like some kids that watch Nickelodeon growing up have suddenly found themselves in seats of power at Nickelodeon. And they've just like for this last like year or two, like really been leaning into like, this is what I liked when I was a kid. I want to see more of this on TV. And so they've done this entire revival of the old like late 90s, early 2000s Nicktoons thing. Like they've gone in and Hey Arnold finally got
A
a
finale.
finale
Yeah.
movie. Yeah, they got a full length movie for a finale. Rocco's Modern Life is going to get a 1 hour special in 2019. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that's coming along. One of the things that they've finally announced is that they are going to do one more special episode of Invader Zim called Enter the Florpus, and that was one of the big announcements. I mean, it was kind of known about a little bit beforehand, but more information has come out at Comic-Con. But the reason that I wanted to ask you about it is because the creator of Invader Zim, Vasquez, is that how you say his last name?
Yes.
Yeah, he's always been a really interesting artist to me. I've actually. I found him when I was really young. I found a comic book that he had written all about this dude that ends up with a symbiote like backpack that like he ends up developing like powers with and stuff. And I ordered an issue of it on. I mean, I ordered a copy of the trade on Amazon, and it was so rare that like Amazon after 3 months sent me my money back, and they were like, "We're sorry, we just can't get a copy of this for you." Like that's how obscure this dude's comics were, right? And I don't know how he ever scored a full on show on Nickelodeon, but I was so happy he did. Like I loved Invader Zim, but he was always a little off, a little different, right? He just had this whole weird announcement to go along with this episode coming out where he's just like, I want everybody to know that I'm not planning on making like a good episode of Invaders. Like, like he's like, I have no intention of this being the best thing you've ever seen. Like, don't everybody get that idea. It's like the weirdest way to like sell this thing at Comic-Con is he came out and he was just like, yeah, I hope you all don't think this is going to be like funny because it probably won't be. And then they put the like teaser out, and I say teaser because there's no like follow through of any type of like storyline. It's just a bunch of like jokes and stuff, right? Just like a bunch of like dick and fart like humor really quickly thrown in your face, which is exactly what I would want from Invader Zim anyway. But yeah, it was all wrapped in this air of just like, look, your nostalgia is something that I will never be able to topple. Like, and I'm not even going to attempt that with this. I'm just going to tell one last story that I want to tell. It's going to be it's going to focus very much on Zim post everything that happens in that series and the idea that he is about to be outed as an alien and it almost doesn't matter to him anymore. And so like apparently like dealing with things like depression and stuff, which is right up my alley, and also something that I completely in line with the way that he handled Zim and all that sort of stuff. So there's just gonna be this last story that he wants to tell, and he's just gonna put it out there, and he's just like, look, I don't even care if you like it because I don't think you're going to. Essentially, is his attitude, and it was just an interesting way to sell a product, man. Like, because I guarantee you that the people that eat up all of that Invader Zim stuff, those that came in the initial run of it and those that came in later on, like they're gonna just eat it up. They're gonna love it, especially because we're not talking about a whole series, so it's gonna have a brevity to it that I think is perfect for a revival of Invader Zim. Like, I don't think it would survive if you brought it back as a whole show. It would just become this thing that people just are after a few episodes just wouldn't be happy with anymore. And I think one episode is perfect, right? You know, prove me wrong. If this thing comes out and it blows up and they decide to bring it back as a whole series, like, great. I'd love to be wrong, but that is not what history has proven before.
Oh, you mean like with when Ren and Stimpy came back and everyone's like, yeah, Ren and Stimpy's coming back, and then like we all watched one episode and stopped watching Ren and Stimpy.
Exactly. Watched like one episode, and then you were like, "Oh, right, there was some stuff about this that probably isn't great anymore," and so you never went back. And the same thing's probably going to happen with Zim. Like some things are going to come out in this episode, and we're just going to be like, "Yeah, this kind of stuff is probably not really acceptable for anymore, right?" Like because there's some dark shit on that show, some really good dark stuff that in 2002 was like great to have,
Yeah, because you
like
weren't
that kind of
seeing
stuff
it
on
anywhere.
TV.
Yeah.
Well, and on top of that, like the attitude that we all had then, and in the world that we lived in that moment, like having a cynical kids show on TV that was doing okay, and that I could go out and buy T-shirts of and all that sort of stuff. It was great, and the fact that it's no longer a TV show but just survives as lines of products is probably for the best, right? Because like I can still remember that thing and like live in my nostalgia in this great way without ever being like grossed out by or disappointed in whatever the show has become, right? So like I'm just super interested. I'm super interested in it because it is going to be just one episode. This dude is already coming out and being like, just keep in mind that like this is a different world than we were in when I first made this show. Like, so clearly with that knowledge, what he's creating is going to be something kind of interesting, I think. and yeah, I uh, I didn't think I'd be like all over this Nicktoons stuff when they first announced it a couple years back when they said they were going to try and revive this stuff. There was even talks of trying to do like a Roger Rabbit style Nicktoons movie in which they all existed in the Nicktoons office together, which would have been really funny. I think that would have been a
I
great
still think
vehicle for
that's
Nick
out there
Cannon.
too.
I like that has to be a Nick
Yeah.
Cannon movie. That has to be him, right? Because I mean, it's just him and working in his office at Nickelodeon. Like that's exactly what that needs to be. Uh, yeah, so like that might be kind of funny to see too, but to see the way that Nickelodeon has kind of really handled the nostalgia aspect, honestly, I think a little bit better than Disney has the last couple of years. You know, with some of the stuff that they've tried to revive, they've had some really cool attempts with like Mickey Mouse and stuff to bring that stuff back. But nothing's really kind of hit nostalgia wise with me for Disney, except I will say DuckTales might be the first thing in a while. Um, but like
So it's
Nick,
interesting
yeah,
if I may step in here.
yeah,
You
please
talk
do.
about Nickelodeon handling nostalgia well. You say that like someone who has not seen the new Double Dare. And I have not talked about the new Double Dare on the Save Report yet because I don't want to be rude. I don't want to be mean. Like
Yeah.
there's enough negativity in the world right now that like my podcast doesn't need to become a vehicle for that. But
Man, so what's up with the new Double Dare, Devon?
it's not good.
Yeah.
It's like there was a real. I hate. I feel like this word has come up too much this episode, but it's the truth. The original show felt real kinetic, like it
Yeah.
felt like it was constantly in motion,
Yeah.
and you do not get that from this new one. And the challenges, the physical challenges. Here's one that was in the first episode. And again, I'm trying not to be negative. These are all just facts. It was take a sponge, dip it in shaving cream, walk halfway across the little area where they do the physical challenges, and stick it to a piece of wood. And you had to get 5 sponges to stay stuck to that wood in 30 seconds to win $400.
Was the piece of wood at least on Mom and Dad's head? Like,
Nope,
was
it
it,
was
was
just.
it, were you balancing that
It
piece
was
of wood on your
literally
chin?
the
Like,
two people like walked over and just did it. They were
but where's
just.
the like
There was just
funny
the
in that?
scaffolding. Yeah, there's not. There's not. One of the ones that I have seen done twice. I've watched 3 episodes of Double Dare. That's not true. I've watched 4 episodes of Double Dare. Apologies. I forgot about the one that was returning teammates coming back to compete against each other with their children,
Yeah.
which was weird. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie. But they're balloons on like pendulum strings, and you pick it up and you throw it forward, and your teammate has on like a rhino helmet, and they have to pop the balloon.
Oh
And you
God.
have to pop the 5 balloons in 20 seconds to win the money.
That sounds like some Double Dare.
Those
like,
balloons are full of water.
Oh no, slime! They should be full of
Yes,
slime.
they should be full of slime,
or
Sejohn.
shaving cream.
Yes,
Oh,
no,
man.
water. Just water. So it's
Oh
just
man.
it's like it's clean in a way. And the worst thing they did is Mark Summers is there. But Mark Summers is now the announcer. He's now
Yeah, but that's
Harvey.
why it's clean. Mark Summers doesn't want anything.
Yeah, I
happening
understand. Thanks for
anymore.
making all the OCD jokes that I've already made. And they have Liza Koshy is the host.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know anything about Liza Koshy. All I know is that she's a YouTube content creator because
Right,
one
yeah.
of the questions on the first episode was, what did Liza Koshy win a Kids' Choice Award for at the 2018 Kids' Choice Awards?
Way to sell yourself, I guess. Weird. Well,
Like,
I will
I'm
also
like-
say this revival of game shows that's been going on over like that is something that is not just Nickelodeon. Like we've been trying to bring back game shows for a while, and not all of them hit. In fact, I'd say very few of them do. I think maybe Family Feud might be the only really successful like
But Family
major
Feud
comeback.
has never really gone
one.
away.
And it never really left, right? Yeah. It really just kind of changed hands more than anything. But like yeah, we have not been able to bring back the marriage game or whatever it was, the
Love
newlywed
Connection?
game, the love connection. There's a whole slew of them.
The
Alex
match
Baldwin, I
game,
think,
which
had his
is
hand
fucking
in, like,
awful. To tell the truth, which I don't understand. That like, it's real. Like it's just like there's no kineticism anymore. Like everything's so sanitized, and it's so like that we're making good television as
Yeah, well,
opposed to we're making television.
a lot of people seem to forget that like the reason that game shows really took off back in like the 50s and 60s and stuff like that had nothing to do with the games themselves, but had to do with like the personalities, and the personalities weren't great now, like in retrospect. Like, you know, what's his name that used to be the
Charles
host that
Nelson Riley. Oh, you mean
listen.
Richard Dawson? No, I was
No, I
trying
had
to.
Chuck Woolery, who were like,
Oh
wasn't he the
yeah.
one that would get really weird with people, like walk up to people and like straight up like put his hands inappropriately on them, and with
Well,
Family
that was
Feud and
also that's Roger Dawson.
Roger Dawson, is that who
Yeah,
that is?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
He
There's
would
just, but that's
kiss
what I
like
mean.
he'd
Is
like
like,
full tongue kiss the ladies.
yeah, like these dudes all of these guys that were like running these shows, like had such
Richard Dawson. Sorry, not Roger.
that they had such weird sensibilities, which is what made them so interesting to watch. But now you can't put that kind of person in charge of that stuff anymore, because like we realized that they were terrible people. Like letting them talk and act the way that they did was funny back then, but now we realize it's just gross, right? So like if you take that personality away, right, Family Feud with Steve Harvey doesn't work for me, because Steve Harvey's personality doesn't jive with me. He's not. I could maybe watch an episode of Family Feud, but I can't sit down and watch 6 episodes of it in a row, despite the fact that CBS might be trying to put that on in the afternoon. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen, right? Like, and so the same goes with something like Double Dare, right? So you take away that like sensibility of what we had in the 90s of like the gross stuff, like climbing up the nose to pick it so that you could find the flag, was like really funny back then, but I don't think that kind of stuff is great anymore. Like people don't care
No,
about
like
that or
the
want
obstacle
that.
course is the worst part of the show.
Ugh.
Because like, I'm gonna ask you something right now. You watched Double Dare as a kid, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any nostalgia for Mount Saint Double Dare?
No.
Do you even know what Mount Saint Double Dare is?
I vaguely recall Mark Summers like screaming it into a TV, but into a camera, I mean, but other than that, no.
So that's like, so here's the weird thing about the Double Dare thing, and I have one other thing to share. And again, I'm not trying to be negative. It's just one of these things that like it happened, and they put it in the first episode of Double Dare, like because these are all pre-taped, right? There's no reason that this had to be the introduction episode.
Right, right.
So every time that Mount Saint Double Dare is on the obstacle course, they're like, and now you get to climb to the summit of, and like the whole audience goes, Mount Saint Double Dare, yeah. And I'm like, are you like trying to meme this thing that
yeah, they're
was
definitely trying to make
never
it
a
a thing.
meme? Like,
Yeah, no, they're definitely trying to make
like
it a
it
thing.
just reads like so false and so hollow. It's
Right.
like you're trying too hard, Double Dare.
Well, and I think that is
2018.
inherent to this game show revival context, right? This idea that like it's trying too hard to emulate a thing that was lightning in a bottle. You know, a lot of these game shows are just that. They're flash in the pan moment things that are great when they exist, but there's a reason they're not on anymore, and it's because people stopped being entertained by that, you know? And I know that there's people out there that want to try and find that thing again, but your best bet is to do something new, right? Like find me a game show that's weird, that's, I don't know. I feel like Nickelodeon has it in them to do like a really bizarre family game show again. It's not going to ever be Double Dare
So
again.
where I
They've
will
gotta
give
find
them
something
credit
else.
with Double Dare, because I will give them credit for this. Instead of it being just one type of Double Dare, like we had Double Dare, then we had Family Double Dare and all that. Every episode, it's like a different thing.
Yeah.
So like sometimes it's just the two random kids paired
Yeah.
up. Sometimes it's two kids who have a history. Sometimes it is a full family. Sometimes it's a parent and a kid. They've had 2 episodes where it was like teams of 3. And they also still have the celebrity ones. Like the 4th
Right.
one I watched, and the one where I'm like, I'm done with Double Dare. I just need to be done with Double Dare. Was Jamie Lynn Spears on with her
Nice.
daughter. The
Great.
same daughter who, when she got pregnant with, was like, get the fuck out of here, said Nickelodeon.
Yeah, Nickelodeon's
Zoe
like, well, I
101
guess you
cannot
can't
be
be one of us.
pregnant.
Yeah.
And Josh Server. And the weirdest thing about that, like those were the 2 competitors, Mark Summers was like heckling Josh Server the whole episode. And I'm like, who is this for? Like, this isn't funny, it's just mean. But that's not even the thing I want to talk about. What I want to talk about, and this is the last thing, is in that first episode of Double Dare, one of the questions was, What would you get if you multiplied the number of members in a quartet by the number of members in a quintet? That was the
Okay.
question. And they asked the blue team this, and the blue team does the little thing and like dare. And I'm like, dare? Really?
Isn't
Like,
the answer just 4/5? Did I do that math wrong?
you did that math way wrong. Multiply
4 divided
them.
by 5.
No,
Oh,
multiply.
multiply. I thought you
Yeah.
said divided by. Sorry,
No.
that was okay. 20. Sorry.
It's 20. Yeah, it's 4 times 5.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and these are like 11-year-old kids, and they're there. And I guess the other team, and I'm like, well, these guys got to be like, thank God these guys dared us, because oh my God, double dare. And then I'm like, well, maybe some strategy was at play, right? Like maybe you looked at your competitors and like, they don't know math, so we're gonna get 4 times the point value. Physical challenge on 4
So
times
they're idiots.
5.
You're upset because people on Double Dare, the
no,
revival, are idiots.
No,
I
I'm
got
not
news for you,
upset.
Devin.
No. I'm not trying to be that. It's just, I mean, that is just indicative, I feel, of a greater issue with like the future of this country, because the people on that, like the youth of this country, don't like, and like, because there's a lot there, like, so they do not know that like quar means 4 and quin means 5. Like, are they just not learning prefixes? Have they never heard the word quartet or quintet? Like,
I got a theory, so let me take a swing at this.
I think
one of the things that made Double Dare so great back in the 90s was that, again, it was the 90s. Everybody was doing really well, and the families that you had on there were always more successful families, upper middle class, right? Like those were the kinds of people that could afford to do the whole like, we're going to leave for a week to go be on Double Dare type thing, right? Like that's the thing. So watching them do these like kind of degrading physical challenges, like crawling up somebody's nose full of boogers and that sort of stuff, or climbing through pancakes to find the flag or whatever, right? Like that sort of stuff was always kind of had a little bit of a schadenfreude thing to it. Like it was really nice to watch these people suffer a little bit, right? What they've done in that question that you're talking about is proven that these people are actually like like put them on a level with you where you start to feel bad for them already, and then on top of that they're going to make them do something degrading now physically in front of you, and it starts to feel gross. It's not the same thing, right? Like if you had a bunch of kids that got a bunch of math questions right in a row, and then finally they got hit with a history question that they couldn't do, like it was like, haha, now you've got to go do this gross thing, you've got to go crawl through the slime, right? Like nerd. Which is like a weird like mean aspect to it back then, but it worked in a way for us because everybody was kind of doing okay,
well,
right?
I think the better example of that would be like when these people would be like getting like math questions right or history questions right, and then they'd be like, what's the name of the Beatles?
Right.
And you
name
have
the
this
4
kid
Beatles.
like not be able to name the 4 Beatles.
Right. There was this, but there was always this element of like, okay, we know this kid's like great at one thing, but now sucker, you got to go do this other thing. Like that feels good. But when you have a bunch of people that can't do basic math in front of you, you don't want to see those people be humiliated anymore on TV.
No,
like, right? Like that's just not what you want to watch.
That's a really interesting point. And actually, what that Beatles question was, because it had stuck with me, is that John, Paul, George, and who make up the Beatles? So it was like, you had to say Ringo.
All
you
you
had
had
to
to do
say
was say
Ringo. You double dared physical challenge. You deserve slime in your face.
Right. Exactly. There was this sense that we were kind of okay with these people being degraded on TV in front of us because we had, gotten to know them a little bit, and we realized that maybe they could use a little slime on their face, right? Like that was the whole point of Double Dare back then. If the point now is like humiliation station, like let's just take them all down a peg, like that's not what I want to watch, right?
Yeah, I'd like much rather see like Lil Genius or Junior Genius from NBC.
Right.
I'd like to see those kids get slimed. Or I'd like to see like the Jeopardy people.
Like the way you do Double Dare now is you make it completely celebrity based. Bring on a bunch of people that we know from YouTube, from other Nickelodeon shows. Like bring on those types of people. Put Pretty Highmore on there. He's not afraid to do something weird, right? Like go out there and find that one person that everybody kind of knows and likes, but also would be willing to see crawl through slime, right? Like you can do that. You can vet that a lot better than putting just American Joe up there, and then we risk everybody kind of like feeling weird about it.
That's an interesting point, Sejohn. It was a good episode, looking at television, and a couple of brief things.
Here we go. Let's quickly pat ourselves on the back before we wrap up today.
Well,
Yes.
I'm just trying to say, like, I'm trying to give my final thoughts. I'm trying
Okay,
to
Jerry.
Jerry Springer this. But no. So if you're watching this TV, or if there's any TV you're excited about that you'd like to hear us discuss, you can always send us an email to thesayReport@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter @thesayReport. You can yell at Sejohn. He's at oh my God, Siege versus the World. Yell at Sejohn at Siege versus the World.
Oh, you can get Devon at Devon D. Decker. Oh, man.
Yeah, mine's easy. Mine's my name. I'm
It's
sorry.
not that hard.
Are you really against the world? Is it really you against the world?
If you listen to most of this show, you'd realize it is.
It's definitely you against me, right? Will, come in here and be an unbiased third party for us.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.